Leave it with you.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. It has thinned out in here, but obviously, I think people that left at lunchtime kind of missed the best bits. I'm not being funny. I'm Collette. I was introduced. I run a brand and strategy consultancy called Brand by Me, and I'm delighted to be asked to chair and facilitate this session, which is what can brands learn from social entrepreneurs when it comes to purpose. And we've heard a lot today about some of maybe the challenges around purpose, because actually, we hear a lot about the importance of purpose, why it's important. Brands need to have purpose, brands need to have purpose. But I think there's been a growing backlash to that in the trade press, right? So I'm hearing cynics say things like, purpose is just a buzzword. Purpose is, or as we saw those dreadful campaigns, people thinking purpose is a poorly executed ad campaign that they can get out. But we know that couldn't be further from the truth. And I think part of that cynicism around purpose comes from the fact that actually to be a brand that truly leads with purpose is tough. It is tough. We've heard about the complex, challenging, uncertain world that we live in. We've heard about the fact that actually brands are incentivized by looking at the short term, and we know that to really drive and embed purpose, that's something that's really long term. But obviously, looking out of the room, I mean, people look a bit tired, but no one looks cynical. And if you are cynical, you certainly won't be by the end of our session, because I've got three amazing social entrepreneurs who are here to share with you the power of their individuals' purposes and also how it really helps them embed and drive and deliver impact through their brands. So I'm going to introduce them now. I'm going to start in the centre because we just heard from him with Cephas and from 56 Black Men. You've heard about the amazing work of the campaign, so I won't go into that. What I'm going to do when we talk, in one of the questions I've got, I'm going to ask Cephas to reference your previous experience with Drummer Boy Studios because you wanted to, but I'll come back to that because I think it's really important. We have, on the end, Jennifer Gia from Emporsand, an innovative startup that's looking to empower women through sanitary products and education. And you'll hear in a second about how they're doing that. And finally, to my left, yep, we have Ali Owen that runs an enterprise really close to my heart, actually, because I grew up in advertising. And Brixton Finishing School is all about helping the creative industries discover untapped talent from underrepresented groups, but also empowering those underrepresented groups and young people from those underrepresented groups to really thrive and succeed in the industry. So what I want to do first, because we've heard a little bit about 56 Black Men as a campaign, I want to get Jennifer first and then Ali, just to explain the purpose of Emporsand and Brixton Finishing School, respectively, so you understand and we have context. So please.
Great, thank you so much. So before I introduce my brand, Emporsand, I'd like to ask a question. What does it mean to be a woman these days? Anyone can answer?
That's a big question.
Anything very, very fast. What does it mean to be a woman? Powerful. Okay. But what about if I said that by 2050, there's going to be 10 billion people in the world, and that right now, 500 million women cannot access sanitation, which is tampons or hygiene products? What do you think then? What does it mean to be a woman?
Oppressed.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oppressed. Basic needs not being met. And what is happening with the world these days with plastic pollution? Do you think about the clothing that you wear and all the clothing that you buy, and that what happens to this when you donate it? Because most of it actually end up in landfill. They don't get recycled. People don't rebuy it because it's so cheap. What happens when the world has so many people that need basic things such as sanitation, and a lot of the people in the world have so much resource that they can just pollute the environment with plastics and clothing? So our brand, Emporsand, aims to abide by circular economy and sustainability. by repurposing all the consumed clothing from the fast fashion industry and convert them into cheap sanitary pads for the 500 million women who cannot afford or access sanitation and hygiene products, so that they have basic needs met, so that they can empower themselves. Because when you empower a woman, in the simplest terms, you don't just empower her, but her children, her husband, her family, and her community. And this is the purpose of Ampersand.
Thank you so much. That's awesome. You see what I mean? I said you're not going to be cynical, and we're going to learn loads about purpose. Ali, over to you.
First of all, that was amazing. Whatever it is, I'm backing it, basically. I'm Ali Owen. I'm the founder of Brixton Finishing School, and our purpose is to create a multicultural marketing, advertising, and technology industry. I've been beautifully teed up by Lydia and also by Cephas today. We find young, raw talent, we train it, and we place it at ring-fence roles and sponsors at big-name agency, advertiser, and media owner sort of sponsors. The reason we're doing that, as we know, is we've learnt today about our industry isn't in any way as multicultural as it should be. We have a massive class divide. We're also not really celebrating neurodiversity or other disabilities within our industry. Shaz, am I saying Shazi right? Did a beautiful, if we're going to tell stories that need personal relevance, then we have to look towards our actual kind of the people that work in our company for that relevance. If we don't have a diverse company, I challenge people how they can tell a good story. And probably my last thought about purpose is, I was thinking about when P&G, the lady said earlier about Mark Pritchard's quote about how it's all about being consumer imperative and how consumers are at the heart of everything we do. What's really interesting to me is consumers are at the heart of everything we do unless we're talking about who we're employing. When actually we don't employ most of our consumers, we employ a majority type, and I'm not saying this is an us or them thing. What I'm asking is for everybody to be included so we make better stories. So my job, which is only a small one, is to set about working with everybody to create an alliance to change that. Last year we won Britain's Best Digital Skills and Inclusion Programme, and that was our second year of operating, so we're sort of on our way.
Yeah, fabulous. Thank you so much. Again, sorry. I think I say. So, I'm looking at the time, and it's gone like massively quickly. So, I'm going to combine the first couple of questions I had for you, which is, I'm going to ask you to talk about what you think, first and foremost, makes a strong brand purpose, but then also how having such a clear and strong purpose helps you with kind of the everyday running of your businesses. And I'll come to you, Ali, first, because you're here.
I mean, for me, our purpose is to make sure everybody wins in our kind of ecosystem, which I think is probably quite similar to yours. So for me, if businesses get better, the staff that they need to be actually reflective of their consumer population as they make more money and tell better stories, the young people stroke underrepresented groups get an opportunity for economic access. So all stakeholders are satisfied and win. And certainly it's a lens through which we make all our purchasing decisions on.
Lovely.
And I think that's made my life a lot easier. Yeah.
Great, thank you. And you, Cephas, please.
Could you repeat the question?
So, the question, first of all, what makes a strong brand purpose? And secondly, how does that help you in kind of the everyday decisions you're making, maybe around 56 Black Men, or even in your previous sort of life? Because equally that was purpose.
What makes a great brand purpose for me is authenticity.
Lovely, thank you.
And so I'll give it in two forms. One, if you're the agent of change and you're the person creating this thing, that is the authentic piece because you've got a lived experience. So, you know, I'm sitting next to a legend. She actually worked in, you know, the industry and left because she didn't see it. She didn't see it was diverse enough. So that's an agent of change from a personal kind of, I'm going to do something. And that's purpose internally. It's very hard to sit in front of a room full of people that work for someone and say, how can you drive that purpose into an organisation that might just be there to satisfy its shareholders and stakeholders?
Yeah, very much
but
so.
the second part to that is if you're not the personal agent of change, then working for an organisation or an organisation connecting with people who are agents of change to empower and strengthen what they're doing. Because then the staff kind of feel better connected to the brand by way of their authenticity being not them sitting at boardroom level saying we can respond to every protected characteristics ourselves, but we can work with people who are doing that externally. So that's how I would say purpose is.
I'm going to just pause there and say I really love that definition of authenticity on two levels, which is actually purpose obviously being a key part of it is being authentic. And when you run your own business, as I know, it's really not easy, but it is simple to create a business that's authentic to who you are. But actually, purpose, the importance of purpose being authentic so that your employees and people that work there can see that too, and being true and credible. Great. And then the second half of the question was, how does that authenticity of purpose, help you in kind of the everyday decisions you're making around 56 black men?
Two ways. One, I wake up, do you know what I mean? And on the days where I don't feel like doing stuff, I connect back to why I started, which is very hard to do if you don't have something, if you don't have a purpose for why you're going to work. It can be a very depressing journey and experience. And again, it's that company being able to connect externally with purpose that can help motivate staff as well. And I can't remember the second part of what you asked, but that's what I would say. And for time's sake, I don't mind moving.
No, you asked that. My question was, how does purpose, having a strong brand purpose, help you with the everyday kind of running of your business? And you said, actually, that gets me up in the morning. And that becomes somewhat of a cliche sometimes to us again, but I will say that last week I spent time talking to each and every one of these entrepreneurs just to get prepared for this panel, and I came away so energized and reconnected with the purpose of my business, Brand by Me. So it's absolutely true in terms of having a clear purpose, how much it just helps drive and create just a joy on our everyday roles. And Jennifer, over to you. So first of all, what makes a strong purpose? And secondly, how does that help you in the everyday sort of decision-making or activity around Emporsand?
So I believe that strong purpose comes with a vision. Your brand is not going to appeal to everyone. Certain people you're going to appeal, certain people you will never appeal. And you want to know what your consumers want. And therefore, your vision is the umbrella for you to act all actions out. So our vision is social change. And we want to talk for people who cannot talk for themselves. We want to act for people who cannot act for themselves. And that is the purpose that drives the brand. And to be honest, what does that do for my everyday? I think about people that are depending on this brand because they cannot help themselves. They don't have a solution and they're waiting for a solution. And that gets me up every morning. I filter, do I want to partner with this big fashion house? Do they value what I value? If it's not under my mission, then no. If it is under my mission, then yes.
Yeah, and I love that as well. That idea of purpose as a filter, right? It's as simple, and it sounds, I mean, we're talking about 3 entrepreneurs with huge visions, but for our own brands, using purpose as a filter to cut through against that short term. Is it on purpose or isn't it? If it isn't, why on earth are we doing this? Why are we doing this activity? So in terms of our criteria for a strong brand purpose, just to recap, we've got a strong purpose being about something that creates a scenario where everybody can win, and actually people seeing that win within it. We've got something around a strong purpose being truly authentic, not just authentic to us on an individual level, but so authentic that people can see it and it's credible and people can buy into it. And then we've got strong purpose driving vision, so that actually we have a clear vision of the future we want to see, and that enables us to pull us forward in our businesses. What I'm going to do now, actually, because I recognise that the question part has been quite hurried in other parts of the presentation, so I'm going to open up to the floor. You'd better have questions, because I'm looking at the timer and we've got time. So, questions from the floor, please. No one's got any questions from these on purpose. Yeah, good.
Oh, thanks, Dino.
Dino.
I haven't really planted anybody in the audience.
Does the panel think that it is the case that once upon a time all brands had a purpose, but they've just forgotten what their purpose is when they get to such a big, lofty size?
Yeah, lovely. So question was it the case once where all brands start with a purpose, but as they get to a bigger, lofty size, they lose sight of it? What's our perspective on that? And who wants to go first?
Personally, I don't think that all brands know their purpose. Because a lot of time, what they're looking for is a result. but not a purpose. So for example, if I want to generate a lot of revenue, that's more of a result than a purpose. Because if you're really focused on what you are doing, like the product that you're selling, or generating a lot of money for your company, you're going to lose your customers because they don't believe in what you do.
Yeah.
So for example, why does Apple, for example, sell watches and MP3s and computers and phones? Because their purpose is to make life better for you, to challenge the status quo. And they really hone down on the vision so that you are aligned with them and they get what they want, which is a lot of sales. Yeah. But why can't Dell or Sony sell the same thing? Because their purpose is misaligned with what people want. And they sell the product and they get the result, but they don't actually know or have defined their purpose, in that the customers don't actually understand what they're trying to do. So I guess to summarize for your question, I don't really think that all brands know or have defined their purposes.
Do you think purpose is something, so over to you, Ali, do you think something is, and I'm going to ask the same question to Cephas, because you've been engaging with big brands as part of this campaign. Do you think that purpose is something you can lose as you get bigger, if you have one to start with? Building on what Jennifer said.
Building on what you said, yeah. I mean, somebody like Unilever has lots of purpose built in now, maybe because they've got big enough they can afford to have purpose. I think some smaller brands like Patagonia, Tom's, start with purpose. I think it's just whether you're all about the money or whether you're actually about caring about your audience, and that's two very different things. And we live in a society that celebrates shareholders and money. I'm not in any way saying that's, obviously I'm kind of saying that's negative. But the reality is you don't get extra points in the boardroom for extra shareholder return if it's done through good things rather than bad things.
Yeah. I'm going to take another question, because yes, that's you that raised, I saw that, and then I'm going to come to you first.
Hello? Yep, okay. This is probably a question for Sinead from Tesco Mobile. What advice would you give to a brand who was supposedly resetting their brand purpose, or what advice would you give someone? It's to everyone, I guess.
Great, okay. Cephas, do you want to take that? What advice? Yeah, I'd love this actually. What advice would you give? I'm like, yes, I really want to hear that. What advice would you give a big brand like Tesco Mobile, who's at the start of maybe resetting their purpose and realigning it? Is that the question? Okay.
Yeah, I kind of answered this previously, but I'll answer it in context of what you've asked. I don't feel like one company has the answers to every reign of purpose. I think anyone who really wants to do that needs to take a step back and needs to understand the landscape, and then work with partners strategically who align you to purpose by way of the work they're doing that links to your direct consumers, because your direct consumers are a wide range of people. And then you're talking about the next generation as well, with regards to what the world is becoming, and making sure that you're not just focused on consumers of the past or consumers of right now, but the consumers that are coming down the way. And you look at brands like Blockbusters who weren't able to realign, who went bust as a result. But again, it's about, the authenticity piece being, if I'm not Superman and I can't save everybody, how can I assemble the Avengers?
Yeah. That's nice.
You know
I love
what I mean?
that, actually. I love that.
I like movies,
I think one of the key things around being super authentic is about reconnecting with your role in the world, right? Because I think that's what it comes down to, realigning and purpose. So if you're somebody like, so I'll give an example, because Blockbuster is really hard for me to get my head around. So the example being Kodak, right? Kodak forgot that actually one of their first purposes was to bring photography to the masses. They did that through cameras. They super forgot about that purpose, so they put all their energy in cameras. And when digital photography, they had the patent for digital photography, actually they kind of didn't think it would be a thing. So ultimately, they forgot that reason why, they forgot their role in the world and the reason why they existed. So as a brand looking to reconnect, the first question is, okay, why did we originally exist? And then, as Cephas said, why is that relevant today? Why is that relevant to our audiences now? And my favourite question of all time, how can we help? because that gets you over the whole, not what can we win or what can we do, but how can we help? And I think in connecting with all those three things, it's a really good way of brands being able to reinvigorate and reconnect with the purpose they once have. And, you know, if we're talking about a massive established brand, you have so much heritage and history to delve into, to look for examples of how you've done that and how you've won in the past that can really help you look at how you can build that authenticity, those wins, that vision back into your brand going forward. Okay. I've got like 10 seconds, so yes, go fast though. No. Hi. It's all right, you shout and then I'll shout it out.
So my name's Junior, I'm from Positively Black.
Yeah, hey Junior.
Hi. You're all social entrepreneurs. My organisation is also along that line.
Yeah.
And it's to do with black people as well.
Yeah.
So I'd like to talk to you afterwards.
Yeah. Nice.
And I've talking to other people, I hear a lot. Obviously, we all know we need to make money for our businesses to survive.
Yeah.
But sometimes I feel like that's the only thing I hear.
Yeah.
So I want to ask for your businesses, how much would you say it actually does? How much are you driven or are you forced to think about that side as opposed
Yeah.
to the
Great.
main aim of it?
So the question is basically, when you are a purpose-driven or socially driven business, we all know that money is the engine behind that, but how do you balance the imperative between purpose and commercial objectives? I'm going to come to Ali because we had that in our conversation first.
I'm not going to lie, it's painful. The amount of times I've woken up at 4 or 5 in the morning going, worried about how I'm going to make the mortgage when I first set up. The reality is, for a purpose to work, for a vision to happen, it's got to exist. You've got to make it work. And that, it's not as if I'd ever do anything completely off-piste, but there may be some areas of greyness I'll work in. Like, I may not completely agree with the politics of a particular brand, but they're not so offensive. I won't not work with them if they're going to help me get nearer to actually this thing surviving and lasting and changing as many people's lives and businesses as possible, and it just becoming an everyday thing. Yeah.
And I think the reality is actually sometimes for us as purpose-driven businesses, we can only understand those red lines when we've trodden over them. So actually, particularly for you in startup stage, I would really encourage you to maybe you keep purpose at the forefront of your mind, but also encourage breadth in terms of the activities you do, to look at what those activities are that are going to really bring in the money, and then you'll understand what kind of the barriers are and what the guardrails are. Certainly for our business, we had to do that in terms of clients, and it really was through experience and doing. I think that often as social entrepreneurs, we have our big vision so forefront of our minds that actually the practical kind of everyday, sometimes we can lose sight of. And honestly, if you do that, your business is going to go bust. So I think it is about understanding those red lines and developing them over time, but giving yourself license to experiment within that so that you can look at what the kind of, so that your business can actually survive and get to a size where you can actually be making the impact. Cool. Yeah, of course, please do.
So I would quickly add 2 things. Just because you're a social entrepreneur and you have a social venture doesn't mean that you're not competitive. You act the same way as a very competitive venture, but you have a social cause. And second, if you appeal to people and you win their hearts because your values are aligned with their values, they will pay for things because they believe in it. You don't try to get money by saying, I need money and therefore here's what I have. But you say, this is what I believe and this is what you believe. Now, do you support me on XYZ? In that second scenario, they will definitely support you on XYZ and even more because they believe in what you believe.
Yeah, it comes back to what Shazia was saying and about the personal relevance. And actually, I wanted to say that actually being purpose-driven is a real driver of that. If you can connect people with that shared vision, shared purpose, it really does help create those stories that connect, but also it's something for brands to get round, that dip we saw at the end where people realise it's your brand and don't want to engage anymore. Right, from our panel, I'm just going to ask very quickly, I realise that we're about to go over, but I think this is really important. I want you to really maybe just tell us one thing that you want everyone here to take away about the power of brand purpose or even social purpose within business. So Cephas, I'm going to come to you first. If there was one thing you wanted to leave the audience with about the power of purpose, what would that be?
I kind of feel hard done by because she directed a question at me and I'm going to have to rush off after as well. So I'm split between answering that or answering this. Let me answer that, if you don't mind.
Okay, no, I don't mind at all.
I don't call myself a social entrepreneur, and I feel like for me, I'm solving a problem. And when you approach work, life, like you're solving a problem, I guess the notion is who are you solving that problem for, and to who is that problem being solved beneficial to. And once you've understood that in its simplistic form, that's your revenue stream and that's your target market. And that's all you need to understand. And if you're solving a problem and you're making money doing it, then hats off to you because we live in a capitalist system. If you're not, then you might be in the wrong profession. And a lot of the times as well, people tend to think, oh no, someone's doing something positive, let's just encourage them. But sometimes destiny is telling you to do something else, but we can be stubborn to continue doing it. And that's not to say that you're not doing the right thing, but just understanding who are you solving a problem for, and who is benefiting from that problem. If it's those people, then at some point you might need to charge them. And if not, then you're going to have to start strategically thinking about who other key partners and key stakeholders might be that would be interested in paying to see this problem solved as well. And that will be my answer, because I'm going to have to rush off after. But we can chop up quickly.
Yeah, I like that. I can connect you.
Sorry
I really
to
love
not-
that.
to
No, I love
boycott
that,
your
but I'm
question.
going to take that as your one, which is actually one of the key things. Because I think it's really clear, is understand the problem that you're looking to solve and also who you're looking to solve that for, and find people that can help you do that. I think it's a really good one in
100%.
terms of take out on purpose. So I've got two people looking at me. So let's go Jennifer next. Your final one takeout in terms of the power of purpose in business.
So I would say look at the why. Don't look at what or how you're going to do it. Look at why, and then you will come up with your mission and vision, and that will be aligned throughout your business.
Thank you. That's brilliant.
I would say have faith. I mean, we've scaled so quickly. If anybody told me 2.5 years ago we'd be this successful, I would be like, no way. I think exactly what you've said about aligning purpose. Suddenly there'll be that moment where there's just a kind of groundswell and people will just go, yeah, this is something we really need, I completely get it. And that's when it becomes really just a wonderful experience.
I love that. I love have faith. Somebody else, it was on the panel about econometrics, and she said hold your nerve. And I think that's a massive one when it comes to brands and being purpose-led, is hold your nerve. Get through the short term into the long term, because it will pay off. And my final takeout is that actually purpose is absolutely meaningless. Unless you live it and deliver it through every aspect of your business, it doesn't mean anything at all. It's not credible, it's not authentic, it's all the stuff we talked about. So that is it. We've run out of time. Cephas won't be around, but you can connect with him. He gave his email at the end of the presentation. You can connect with him that way. I would like to thank Cephas Williams from 56 Blackman, first and foremost. I would like to thank Jennifer Gia from Emporsand. And last but not least, Ali from Brixton Finishing School. Thank you so much. I'm Collette Phillip. Hope that panel's been really useful. Thanks very much.